The next question I have was submitted, and this I could use your guys' help on this one for sure. But this, how can I help my teenage daughter who needs so much validation from boys? Um, that's a really really good one too because teenagers need validation, right? All teenagers need validation. I remember when I got that question, I'm like, gosh, I needed validation um, as a boy from girls. That was just such a big thing, right? As a teenager, yeah, there's a point where that can become very unhealthy, and I think that's what you wanna watch out for. Again, trust the process, right? You're doing your best as a parent. There's no perfect parents. You're not going to do everything just right, and trust that they're going to learn the lessons that they need to learn. Your job is to just try to guide them as best as you can, and sometimes they'll follow, and sometimes they won't. And either one is going to be okay because if they don't follow your counsel and your advice, then maybe there's a lesson that they need to learn on that path, right? As hard as it is to watch them walk down that path, sometimes the best way, how Elder Holland said it best, the best way to get from A to B is sometimes by way of C, right? Sometimes you got to go down the wrong path a bit before you realize, nope, I got to go to this one. And that's always stuck with me when I heard him share that analogy that yeah, so sometimes it's okay to allow them to go down those paths, especially. I mean, you can't force, right? We can't force people. That's just we have an obligation as parents, right, to protect. But when you get into those teenage years, that gets really, really hard because they see that protection as being constrained and forced, and they will fight against it, right? And so the best thing again is I think to express love, to share love, to be patient. And in this particular case, I think I think what I would suggest doing is just trying to teach them kind of the principles behind validation and self-worth. Help them understand where it comes from and help them to recognize where it doesn't come from, right? And then at that point you just have to kind of turn it over and trust that they'll make the right decisions with it. Nobody changes, none of us change unless there's first awareness. So your job right away, first thing, is to try to help them to become aware of this unhealthy need for validation, where it's coming from, why it's happening, and help them to recognize it, right? So they can begin to change it. And it's going to be a process. It's going to take time, but it's one of the best processes that they'll ever go through. And we don't have time to go through it a lot tonight, but I have a formula that I love to teach in my coaching programs and classes that I have found is really the formula for so much of life's problems. I don't know if you see this, but it's worth plus power does not equal power. I wrote that wrong. My brain is not working. I'm going to correct that. We're live, so these kinds of things happen. Worth plus power equals safety. Not power. That doesn't make sense. Worth plus power equals safety. Okay. I spent $7,000 learning that equation, but it's been a game changer for me. An absolute game changer. Because the reality is we want to feel safe. That's an intrinsic need that every single one of us have, right? We need to feel safe. The problem comes when we don't feel safe or we don't feel confident or at peace or happy with who we are. Well, we turn to one of these two things, our worth or our power, to try to bring that back into alignment. And for worth, unhealthy aspects of worth manifests itself in what I call health or not health, but worth grabs, right? We try to grab our worth from things, intrinsic or external things outside of us. And power is manifest. We played what's called power games, where this is where you'll see a lot of manipulation. You'll see control. You'll see people that will give their power away, right? You see all those kinds of things, and a real lack of boundaries creates, all this is done in an attempt to feel safe. It just doesn't work, right? Worth grabs, we can list 100 things down here, and especially with teenagers, right? Just think for a moment, where do teenagers identify their worth as a teenager. Where do they get their worth from? It's from the clothes they wear. It's from the cars they drive, right? It's from the phones they have. It's from the sports or other activities they're involved in. It's with how popular they are. It's with whether they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or not, right? These can all be worth grabs. Anything outside of themselves is a worth grab, and it will not last because nothing outside of us will last. It just doesn't. Everything's meant to go away. Everything. You tell me one thing really that's meant to last outside of us that just isn't going to eventually go away, decay, or die or move on. Right? Everything. Worth has to come from inside. That's the only place it can come from. And power, we can spend a lot of time talking about that, but since this is about worth, trying to help, like in the question, the case of the question, trying to help a young woman see that her worth cannot come from anything outside of her. Another phrase that I like to reference, and you can find tons of stuff on this on the internet, is be, do, have. I've got to be it before I'll do it, and then I'll have it. Teenagers try to get this, they get this in reverse, right? They think I got to have something so I can do something, and then I'll be something, right? Often the be is like be happy or be confident, right? I have to have a boyfriend or girlfriend so I can do all the things that I see a boyfriend or girlfriend's doing, and then I'll be confident in that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because, again, the haves are all temporary. The only thing that will last is be. In adults, we tend to do, we get do, have, be, right? If I do more work, if I do more, work, I'll have more money, I'll be able to then have more time, whatever. If I work out more, I'll have a healthier body, whatever, and I'll be happy, I'll be content. Again, it just doesn't last. You burn yourself out. Be, do, have, right? I've got to be it first. I have to be a happy person with whatever I have. I have to be enough as I am. And then I'll do all the things that happy people and people that are confident in who they are and enough do. And then I'll have all the things that a happy person has and a confident person has. It has to start here. So trying to teach these concepts to young people, that's what I love to do, because it just starts to plant seeds, and it kind of helps to shift minds a little bit, and they start to see like, oh my goodness, yeah, football is a big worth grab for me right now, because without football, I don't know who I am. My boyfriend and girlfriend, yeah, that's a big worth grab, because without them, I wouldn't live. I would shrivel up and die. That's not how it's meant to be, right? These clothes that I have, they're pretty important, right? I've got to have the latest brand. They're all worth grabs. And when they start to see that, they can start to catch themselves and start to move towards real sources of validation, right? Places of true confidence that isn't based on whether a guy said hi to you or not, or a girl, agreed to go on a date with you, but because you are an amazing person, regardless of what anybody else says or does. Nothing can take your worth away because it is set. It is a set point. It is fixed. It is infinite, and it is eternal. And nothing anybody can say or do can change that. Nothing you can say or do can change that. And when they come to see that and understand it for what it is, that begins to bring that equation back into alignment. Now, there's lots of parts to it. But once it starts to bring that into alignment, that safety begins to become real and palpable as well. Which the opposite of safety is insecurity, right? That's why this insecurity is leading to all this validation I need from things outside of me, or to play these power games because I'm just trying to feel safe. And they don't understand that those things continue to cause problems. Being a former seminary teacher, the question is, how do you bring worth back into alignment? Well, there's all kinds of things you could do, right? There's affirmations, there's vision boards, there's lots of different mental techniques that you can do. But one of the most important things that anyone can do is connect with God. He's the source of true validation. And so it's one of the things I often try to work with anyone on, is just forming some kind of connection with God in whatever way, shape, or form that needs to be. Because when we connect with Him, He can remind us of that worth that is intrinsic in us, and can help bring that equation into alignment. And as a recommendation for a book, there's a great book called You Are Special by Lex, uh, what was it, Lex? I just had it. Let me see if I can find it. Max Lucado. That's who it is. Max Lucado. You Are Special. It's a kid's book. But it teaches one of the greatest principles about worth that I've ever seen. And I've tried. In fact, I've read that book with my own daughters every Christmas. Just it's one of our Christmas books, and they've loved that and the message that it has. And it is simply the best way for you to stop caring about what other people think and to bring really that equation back into balance is to spend time with your Maker. Spend time, let Him remind you of how special and amazing you are. And He has the power to do that. Obviously, spending time with friends and parents and all this helps as well. But spending time with God, there's just something about that. And so that would be my advice on helping teenagers with validation. Start by teaching them the concept, the principles, help them to understand the concept of worth and power and safety and be, do, have, and then help them to start to see some of the worth grabs that they have going on. Reality is, you and I have them too, right? I think if we look closely at ourselves, we can recognize some of the things that we're doing, or that we're reaching for, are kind of worth grabs. There's so many different ways that can manifest itself. It's crazy, but anyway, I think that's good on that question. If there's any comments on that.